Welcome, everybody. It is November 9th. LSU versus Bama. Welcome to Alabama Game Day today. The importance of this game cannot be understated. You got two teams sitting on two losses. A third loss practically eliminates them. So the importance of this game, each team, it's a must-win for, because third loss eliminates both of them. So if you want any shot, if you're Alabama, if you want any shot at being in the playoff, you've got to beat LSU. And it's made even more difficult because you have to go to Death Valley. I've been predicting all season long that Alabama might lose at LSU. It's the toughest environment probably in all of college football. Saturday night in Death Valley. All those contending fans, and it's like the team itself just hits another gear during Saturday night in Death Valley. Why do you think under Brian Kelly that LSU is undefeated on Saturday night in Death Valley? You got to overcome a lot. This team has been great in the face of adversity. Nobody thought we'd beat Georgia. We did. Nobody thought after the Tennessee game that we could come back and have a good game against Missouri. We did. But there's also been the inexcusable stuff. We should have never had a bad second half against Georgia, but we did. We should have never struggled with USF until the last quarter of the game, but we did. Should have never lost to Vanderbilt. We did. Probably shouldn't have lost to Tennessee. We did. We have to play like the team that we know we can be. Because if we do not play like the team we know we can be, then it's over. It's going to be over if we don't play like the team we know we can be. Milroe's got to have a good game. Ryan Williams, we have to find a way to get the ball to him. Start taking advantage of Jeremy Bernard, too. I don't know why he hasn't had as many good receptions, because he's been a good deep threat guy. But for some reason, we haven't found a way to get the ball to him in a good situation. Running game's got to be in tip-top shape, because it's going to be wet in Tiger Stadium tonight. So we may not be able to rely a lot on throwing game, so the running game would have to be good. Speaking of that weather, it shouldn't be too much during the game, maybe the end of the game rain or the very beginning of the game rain. But the concern everybody has is that it's been raining a lot in Louisiana the past week, so it's been building up the moisture in Tiger Stadium. And it's going to rain even more in the coming hours. So the field for both teams isn't going to be particularly good. And you just got to adapt. Yes, it's bad if you're playing on a wet field, but you've got to adapt. The best teams, they adapt. They don't make excuses of, it was a wet field, so we couldn't really get a good grip on it. The other team's struggling with the same thing. So that excuse is out the window. If it's raining, if it's cold, if the field is wet, that excuse is out the window, because if you're contending with it, well, what does that say about what the other team's contending with? Alabama opened up as the favorite. I believe they're still the favorite to win the game, but of course that means absolutely nothing. And really, there's a reason why you might favor LSU in the game. What cannot be understated is how important the game is to the teams in it for the playoffs. Now, for whoever the winner is, they got at least an 80% chance of getting into the playoff. Because LSU, if they win, well, the remaining games on their schedule, you got Florida, which is an absolute dumpster fire right now. How do they keep building Napier? I don't know. but they're playing Florida next week. Then they come back home for the next two games. They play Vanderbilt, which in Tiger Stadium, I don't know. I think LSU would have the advantage. I know Vanderbilt beat us, and they are a good team, or at least better than what they normally are, but I wouldn't expect Vanderbilt to get a win over LSU in Death Valley. And into in the season, you got Oklahoma at home, which the combination of Oklahoma has struggled to adapt to the SEC, and that you have them in Death Valley. You're looking very favorable to win that game. Alabama might have the more favorable schedule than LSU, because the next game after this one for Alabama is an FCS opponent, Mercer, at home. Then you go on, you have to go on the road, but you play Oklahoma, who hasn't done well in the SEC or against ranked teams. So you should be able to get, I'm not going to say you should be able to win it, but you have a good chance. And then to end the season, you're back at home against Auburn, who hasn't done well at all. So the winner of this game, you're in the clear possibly to make the playoffs, but you have to win the game. If you lose this game, you can kiss your playoff hopes goodbye. You cannot be looking ahead to the playoff. You got to win this game. Clear, cut, dry, signed, sealed, delivered. You have to win this game. You cannot be making stupid mistakes on the field. You cannot be wasting drives. You cannot be leaving points on the board. You have to win the game to keep your playoff hopes alive. To any chance of having a season you wanted, you have to win the game. LSU, I'm not so sure the season would be considered a disappointment if they failed to make the playoff. Alabama, it's going to be considered a huge disappointment. Yes, we lost Saban, but we got the boar. We got a guy who led his previous team to the national championship last year. If we lose this game, if we do not make the playoff, this season is going to be considered a disappointment by the fans, by the media, and by the team. We've got the talent. We've got one of the best game-breaking wide receivers out there. We got a strong running game. We got one of the best athletes playing quarterback. And he's got a good deep ball. But we've made way too many mistakes on that field. We've let our opponents hang into the game. We've tried things that never work. We have to play the way we know we do well. Because if we don't, no playoffs for us. In the 12-team playoff era, if you're Alabama, do you want to be left out of the playoff? If this were the 14 playoff, we'd be screwed. But in the 12-team playoff, luckily we got a chance. We're ranked number 11 right now. We're ranked number 11. If the season ended today, we'd be in the playoff. But we can't be focused on that. We have to focus on the opponent in front of us. We have to focus on winning the game. Saturday night in Death Valley has been not really kind to us. You look at the record and it's deceiving. But when you read between the lines, something tells you what the record doesn't. 2008, we should have blew out LSU in Tiger Stadium. We had needed overtime to win that one. 2010, LSU had Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee as quarterback, two not very great quarterbacks. We probably should have blew them out, but they won. I mean, maybe you could justify that one because they did have an excellent run game, some excellent receivers. They had Patrick Peterson on the defense, really a loaded defense altogether. So maybe you can justify losing that one. But We had a chance to win that one and it slipped away. 2012, LSU lost a whole bunch of talent from that 2011 national title appearance team. We should have won. But we did. We should have blown them out, I should say. We won the game. But we struggled tremendously. 20, was it 2014? Yeah, it was 2014. We were, LSU wasn't that great that year. I think LSU went 8-5 that year. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We needed the TJ Yeldon run out the backfield. No, wait, that was 2012. It was 2012 we needed the TJ Yeldon screen run out the backfield in order to win the game. 2014, we actually needed overtime to win the game against a clearly inferior LSU team. 2016, we go into Death Valley, and that was the year Danny Etling was there. LSU, you can't really even name any people off of that LSU team unless you remember it. And it was 0-0 the entire until the fourth quarter. We got lucky and Jalen Hurts broke out a huge touchdown run. Then we got the ball inside LSU territory because we intercepted it and kicked a field goal. We needed almost 4 quarters just to score points. 2018, we won 29-0, but the first half was terrible. 2020, yeah, that was a blowout. LSU was just completely decrepit at that point. But then 2022 happened. Jaden Daniels was on that team, but he didn't hit his Heisman stride. LSU didn't. LSU was not better than Bama was, but they won the game. That was the year we had Bryce Young, Will Anderson, and a whole bunch of NFL talent on that team. But we lost to an inferior LSU team. It's Death Valley. To them, beating Alabama means everything. I like Matt Moscona's content. I think he is an excellent radio host. But that fan base is so passionate about beating Bama that he's the one that's done all this that Alabama is burning skits. Which I do think a lot of what he said in those skits are accurate. Because when he points out that we should have beaten Georgia badly, that we should be not losing all these recruits to Auburn, that we should have never lost to Vanderbilt, that we're having a mobile quarterback throw 50 times a game when we had all these strong running backs. It's accurate. What are we going to define our legacy tonight? Because tonight's game defines the legacy of this 2024 Alabama team. Are we going to define ourselves as a great team that rose above adversity? Or are we going to be defined as a team that had one good win, but every other good opponent we lost? We need to win this game. That concludes Alabama Game Day today. I will be doing a live reaction. I have a special guest that I'm going to have, who's an LSU fan, on, who's going to, at least for the first half, react to the game live with me. Not sure about the second half. Depends on if the company stays or not. I'm going to let them decide if they want to stay or not. I plan to react for their whole game, but I may have to break it up into parts depending on what happens. But I will be live reacting to the game, so be on the lookout. I'm probably going to start around 10 minutes before the game. We're going to have a good time. And I hope you have a good time watching all these games. Hope your team wins unless your team is LSU. Roll Top.